questions
I don't have any questions.
or comments?
I found it very interesting, and it really sets into why certain things, I mean, I thought about your reference to biblical words when you were talking about that, but you can see why that has lasted over the years, over time, by the way it's written, by the way the words are, throughout the whole book, the Bible, there's one theme that stays in there, and that's fear of God.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps people, I feel it keeps people staying in that belief system for fear that if they get out of it, there's repercussions.
Well, I think also, with that, a lot of people don't remember or don't know or don't realize, not sure which one it is, or maybe a combination of, that the Bible has gone through a ton of translations.
Exactly.
Indeed.
It's not its original, right? And that translation was done by man.
Gosh, what would they do?
Yeah, right. And through each translation, the some of the meaning, some of the messaging was influenced by the man or men that were rewriting it. I mean, we can't deny that. I mean, that's just a reality. It doesn't mean the essence of the messages and, the if you look deeper into the underlying messages that were brought through, that there isn't a lot of power there, because there's a lot of great lessons within it.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, I think when you think of the intentional or otherwise, the implanting of the fear-based following, I don't believe in my heart of hearts that was the original message. Because for me, number one, that completely goes against the prime core essence of a God figure, which is unconditional.
Right. That's always been my question. Why, how can it be unconditional? Yet, if you're not
all
perfect,
these conditions,
you're in trouble.
Yeah. There's a lot of rules here, and
there is a lot of rules. Yeah.
And they're kind of skewed in a particular direction. If you do back up and you watch or read what's being said, they're all going in a certain direction. They're steering you to a particular direction.
Right.
And if you read, one of my hobbies is reading the Gnostic texts and understand these are the books that never made it into the Bible.
Right, the lost gospels.
Yeah, and your first question is, well, wait a minute. If these were God's words too, shouldn't they all just be in the book?
No.
Well, and also even in that, Ross, I think that to remember that those are not God's words.
Right. No, I know. I understand that. No, I get that. But when you have a council and they all get together and say, well, we're going to put that book, we're going to do that one. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
This is if this is all God's word, then shouldn't all the words be used? Yeah. Regardless of their translation. And what Gary is saying is, and I would take that back even further, and maybe this is what you're implying, Gary, is that the very first was a dictation.
Exactly.
And so they had a court reporter there going like this, and we see even now that the people who take dictation professionally make mistakes. Their filters will fall into there. So, well, that's how I understood it. That's how I perceived what you said or meant or whatever the case. And so it does. And when Gary started, wasn't this one? It was the one before where you're saying in the
beginning there was the word.
In the beginning there was the word, and but it's a matter of whose word. And I still go on that premise as well of, well, but a lot of this stuff was written decades later than when it actually transpired. So you know, if I go and talk to 10 people and ask them, you know, what they had for dinner last week, they can't remember. And now
I can't. No.
So it's, you know, we start looking at, you know, how, you know, just how the human brain works as well, and human behavior works into that whole process. And it's, you know, you're kind of like, well, and then we have a good portion of society say, well, this is exactly what it says. It's like, yeah, but that's layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of translations and suppositions and filters and perceptions and all of this stuff. And where when we understand that, you know, we are it, we are our creators, and that's we have the most powerful, you know, minds that we know of. And they have the ability to literally create what's in front of us and behind us and are all around us, to create a reality that's there. And it's all us. And you go back to the books that aren't there, that's what a lot of them are saying. It's like, it's you. Yeah, Christ is in you, because that power is in you. That power is in you.
Which, you know, comes back to really sorry, Glenda, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's the part that really was left out, is in the Lost Gospels, is the part where it talks about that is you. You have that power.
Right.
Which, you know,
had to leave that out to get control.
Yeah. Well, you know, man, if everybody has power, then how do we control them? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and the essence of really what Ross and I have been putting together in, you know, the Infinity Process and all of what we're teaching through the Hacking Infinity Matrix, you know, it's really about getting to the point where you get to, instead of saying, oh my God, with all the things that are going on, you say, oh, I am God. And to come from that place. And you can't be in that place if you are playing in the game of they control me, or it's me against them, or the this or that model. That needs to get thrown out to say, no, it's this and that and that and that and that and that and that. And there's, you know, there's 8 billion that's around at least, right? You know, and so to take that approach, I think, is really what we want to emphasize and give people tools, skills, and resources to do, which isn't out there in the way that we're putting it, we believe anyways.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at the way society has been conditioned, and not just on a religious aspect, just conditioned all the way, is that we are continually thinking that what I want and what I need is out there. I have to get permission from out there. I want is out there, when really it's in here. And when we can reverse that and saying, you create it, you create it. So if you create it, you're not creating it out there, you created it in here first, and then the reality will respond to it. But if we go back, and again, I think a lot of this societal conditioning does come back to, you know, a lot of the way that a lot of the biblical terms and all of them, they're all relatively kind of the same. It's kind of like there was this one framework, and it's like, well, I'm going to write it like this. I'm going to write it like this. I'm going to write it like this. But they all do the same thing, as to where, not all, excuse me, many of them, most of them, they put that power outside of you. So you have to go get permission, or you have to do this, or you have to go to this building, or talk to this person to get permission to do that. And when it's all just, no, you can actually just take care of it all yourself.
But I think, you know, Ross, a lot of these, you know, it's actually used by politicians to divide.
Yes.
And it is happening a lot. I mean, it's sad to say it's happening a lot in Malaysia. Malaysia is a beautiful country, but right now our politicians result there,
Yeah.
who call it the backdoor government because they're not the true ones who are elected. And there's a lot of kiosks where they divide out we versus they. They use the same old theory of we versus they. So it's like the Chinese versus the Malays or the Muslims. So they use religion in a very strong way, which is very sad in this country. Never seen it ever so strong as now, because their political power is very weak. So they are dividing it and putting more stress towards this direction to divide the people and to control them in fear, to control their own power. So it is manifested much more than ever in this country. Never ever before like that.
It's all around the world. I think I would agree with you all around
Well,
the
yeah, I
world.
mean, and I think when you look at whether it be politicians, and I agree with you 100%. But when you look at politicians or any of these, media companies, whatever, they have armies of psychologists and sociologists and these professionals that are all geared into using these different types of words and phrases and such to steer to people, to control them, to manipulate them. And again, when Gary and I, we can sit and listen to somebody saying something or listen to the news or whatever, and we're like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? It's just like, because there's this message underneath. And that's the code. That's the real code. And when you start to identify that, then their tricks and such don't work. But it's kind of scary. And social media, you might be learning this now, Jean, is social media now gives people like this an enormous platform. Yeah. And it's no longer that guy standing on a soapbox on the corner hoping that 10 or 20 people will listen to him talking. He's in an office, he's in a bedroom, he's in a basement, and he's just, and he has, the world will listen if he can grab their attention.
Yeah.
And if he knows how to use words in that manner, it can do a lot of damage. I studied a lot about the QAnon trend, or whatever we want to call that,
phenomenon.
A year ago. Yeah, phenomenon is a good one too. And that was very, very strategic. I mean, and as whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't really matter. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was done brilliantly. And you have to applaud it. You have to look at something like that and say, that was a good job. I don't agree with it because that was creating the storm. And I'm sitting here in the eye of the storm, but you still have to go, wow, that brings a lot of things to light. Yeah. That how this system can be doing. We talked about I think like 6 months ago, we talked about the Cambridge Analytica, where they pulled a lot of the data from Facebook and used that data to manipulate and change their message through words and phrases. And again, this is what technology is bringing about. It's the other side. It's the other side of it. I mean, I think the internet is an amazing tool. It's amazing. I mean, look what we're doing now. Yeah. 50 years ago, we would be having this conversation, through the postal service.
Yeah, and I think that
maybe a telephone. So, but now we have this ability to do it.
Letter, I miss writing a letter. Dear Ross, how are you?
What do you think? I'm fine. Oh, she's fine. Okay, I'm so glad to hear that. you know. But so we look at this, we marvel at it. We're like, oh my God, this is such an amazing tool that we can utilize to connect, grow, teach, expand, all of this, but there's that other side of it.
Yeah.
As with any
And the
technology.
other side of the other side is that I think that the more that we empower ourselves to the understanding of words, the understanding of those tools that are out there, the less influence they can have over us without our choice.
Exactly.
Right. And that's where I think we gotta keep remembering, come back to how do we be empowered regardless of what is out there. And it kind of goes along with what we're going to talk about in next Thursday's call, but to get to that place. Well, actually, there's a quote. Hold on. There's a quote that I came across. So from a biblical scholar, so just synchronistically works in what we're a biblical scholar, Northrop Frye. He says, your words are a storm center of meanings, sounds, and associations, radiating out indefinitely like ripples in a pool.
Nice.
Beautiful, yeah.
Right. I mean, so, but again, it's who gives it meaning, who decides what the sounds are, who creates the associations, so that radiates out or radiates in. Where are you, on the receiving end of that ripple, or are you on the delivery end of that ripple? You get to choose that all the time, right? But you can't be in that position if you're in a place of ignorance, in a place of, it's just words, or in that type of place, you are disempowering yourself. Ignorance is not bliss.
No.
Right. It isn't. Right. It's an escape from responsibility.
Yes.
Right. And
Correct.
and I think that we've been conditioned, so many people have been conditioned out of taking responsibility for where they're at, what their results are, that the ego mind jumps up and tries to defend it. Right. It blows me away. And I'm gonna say that I think that I catch myself every now and then being in this too. It blows me away at how strong people are in their capacity to hold on to their negativity. To hold on to their limitations, to justify it,
it's just a comfort zone. If there's comfort in there's comfort in the negativity, I think.
Well, but for me, I've turned that around. The comfort is not in the negativity. For me, that to me is super discomfort. But we've been conditioned to think that that's it. We've been conditioned through the words that we've heard from our peers, from our family, from our teachers, has conditioned us to the place where, the less than positive. There's this quote, this saying that I hear all the time. When I hear it, I just cringe, because I'm like, what the hell kind of belief system is that? Is that, oh, well, to err is human, or if someone's messing up, well, they're only human. What? Only human? Do you know the magnitude of what?
Well, that goes back to our conditioning. We were conditioned into that stuff when we were young, I think.
Well,
it's really hard for people to look at their self. That's why it's hard to come out of the negativity, I think.
Yeah.
If you have to look at yourself, you have to start making changes in yourself. And that is always a difficult thing for people, especially if they've been in that belief for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And, you need to have, synchronous events that kind of, make you see the glitch in the matrix to go, well, hold on, maybe there's something different here, or whatever, and to kind of make that shift, to open up a portal for you to start to enter into different realities. And I think it's just when it's your vibrational time, and it's right for you that it happens, where you run across a stream like this, or you run across our chats, or a particular meme, or whatever, right? Or a certain person, or opportunity. I mean, those are all, they're designed by your higher self to guide you along the way as guideposts.
Right.
Right. And but some people just, I mean, the higher self is throwing stuff at them all the time, and they're just kind of, oh, nope, not looking at it. They're looking different directions.
Yeah.
Gary, can I ask you about the higher self? Huh? Let's say when we say we put, like we were talking about dreams, and then we put it into our higher self and so forth. So can you explain and elaborate a bit more about the higher self? Is it that the higher self is staying there, or is it that we are just part of this higher self, or we just putting it there and then bring it down later? So can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, I think the higher self is, we can think of it like Santa Claus. Right?
Okay. Santa Claus analogy. Way to go, Gene. You got him going. I was gonna go put on his elf outfit.
Right? It just
Yeah.
knows when you're good. It knows when you're bad. It's watching you when you sleep, when you're not. It's there all the time. It's not a separate entity. It's a part of who we are. We're contained within that higher self, but we give us the illusion that we're separate from it. Right? And that higher self is always there, throwing gifts at you all the time, not just waiting for one day a year. It's throwing gifts at you all the time in the form of, opportunities, experiences, communications, aha moments, insights, dreams, all different things. It's giving you these different ways to find out which one's going to vibrate with your core the best. And that higher self, in our opinion, my opinion, that higher self is connected with all the other higher selves.
Right.
Which then creates this collective consciousness, which I believe the ancients were, which is what they called the God. Right. And it's from that collective consciousness of all these different these inner mini selves, right, within this macro self, which, there's probably even bigger selves than that. That's, to what degree of infinity we can go out, I don't know. We don't know. We can only assume and hypothesize, right? But when you get to a place where you're doing that inner search and you're doing that journey of finding out who you are and connecting with self, like Linda was talking about, when you're connecting with self, you get to a point where self doesn't exist. There's only a oneness. And that's what all the ancients and all the spiritual teachers talk about, is that we are all one, because they get to that place where they realize that there is no difference.
And so we gave that oneness a name. Many names.
But one name, but many representations of that one name. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So some call it God.
Mm-hmm.
And could it be also the connection of the oneness is through consciousness, through your heart?
Sure.
It's through that, yeah, for sure. Those are streams. Those are avenues to connect with it, right? Those are, those are the. That's the cell phone. The heart is your cell phone connection. Your consciousness is cell phone connection to that higher being. Right, that higher self, that higher collective consciousness, and for the journey to the self, the spiritual evolving life force. That's what we emphasize, is that, hey, it's about the spiritually evolving life force. You are a life force, and that contains all kinds of things, not just meat and bones and flesh and blood. That's so small in comparison to the magnitude of who and what we are.
So when you listen to or read, some of the biographies of some of these great inventors and artists, Tesla and Da Vinci and Michelangelo and such, they all say that they got their inspiration from outside of them. Okay, it came to them, through dreams, or they would just get into a state where, this information would just flow into them. And Tesla probably made it the most, brought it to the forefront the most. I think he's quoted more than anything else. He goes, he says, I am just a receiver. He goes, and I just go into a state, and these ideas, these inventions and such, they just come to me. They just come, and they just pass through me. As if he's the tool, he's the machine that's creating these. And
isn't that why? That's why meditation is so beneficial, because you quiet yourself down and you can connect, and then you can get answers.
Right. Einstein used to get his ideas or inspiration through dreams.
Yeah.
Which he might have some other influences too.
Well, I mean, this is rated. But nevertheless, though, I mean, these great people always said is that something flowed through them. Their wisdom flowed through them, and we interpret that. I mean, Gary and I interpret that as that it came from the higher mind. It came from that super consciousness, because the information is already there.
Right.
It's just waiting for somebody to have the ability to, articulate the information and create something with it. So that's the higher mind.
And also, I mean, words and all that are actually a great division of people, dividing people tremendously.
When they're used in that fashion, yes, they can do that.
Yeah,
words are an invention. Words are a tool. So again, they can divide
a lot. So, and I think, as you say, maybe in other countries as well. So how are people going to get more aware, since that we are far more interconnected, to realize that, to wake up, to realize that, to give a reflection towards whatever they believe is not what it is. So how are the people going to wake up to this? I mean, I know there are lots of people who are waking up, but there are much more that are not, and which are, living the life of fear to division, and not creating the harmony that is needed for the earth to grow, for us to grow as one. And it is actually quite divisive. It's quite divisive. How are we going to create this closeness?
Let me just add something to this. I think that the initial response to me is that some will, some won't. That's just the way it is. And those that are there in that side of the pool right now need to be there in that side of the pool, so that the people that are on the other side of the pool have something to reflect on. And it's like saying, well, if we look at a yin and yang, which is this amazing symbol, it's like, well, we need to take out some of the stuff on the dark side. Well, no, you don't. That's what makes it the symbol. That's what makes it to give the meaning of this totality of everything. So there's a few things in that, Gene. I think that one is that to understand that every spiritual soul has their own journey to go on, and that journey is going to include whatever they're experiencing right now, and whatever they're experiencing moment by moment, whatever the path that is, that's their journey. And we need to be okay with that. I think once we start to judge that as being better or worse, that feeds to that narrative of it's not right. Right? That's the journey they need. Yeah. Say it again, Linda.
That's what's hard, because you feel this oppression
Totally.
and you're
Yeah.
trying not to feel it. You're trying not to respond, but sometimes you just do.
Yeah, but and again,
It's
it
hard.
comes back to the yin yang, right? So then when you're on the other side and you see that, you go, oh, well, I feel that. And if I didn't feel that, then I wouldn't have something to reflect on to say that, hey, that's a reality I prefer not to have. If you
Well,
didn't
that's true.
have that buffer, how would you know that what you're in is what you prefer?
I don't know. Wouldn't it be nice for about 5 minutes to have peace everywhere? Just a couple minutes. It just seems like there's one challenge, then comes the next one, and then comes the next one.
Well, and so the way you do
Oh.
that is you welcome the challenge, you welcome the unknown and make it your friend and realize that it's a part of your journey too. And to be okay with that. So then you get to this place of not being pulled into the polarity, but you're in the neutral zone. So even in the yin and the yang, right, there's a line that separates them. If you can be in that line to know that, hey, both exist at the same time and they both need to exist at the same time. It's not a this or that, it's a this and that, so that this life experience is one that's more whole and complete. And then you can choose which side you go and play on.
Yeah.
But it's not based out of emotion. It's not based out of conditioning. It's based out of choice.
Yeah.
And yes, that can be for some people until they get to that point, until they get the practicing and until they get the experience, until they get the quote unquote calling to get to that place. It can seem like a challenging journey, but that's a part of the learning and the experience that's needed.
Exactly.
I was
think
listening to,
Yeah, I think as you move on towards a greater consciousness, you allow yourself to be more accepting,
Yeah.
as you say, the black and the white and the yin and the yang,
Mhm.
and to learn not to pass so much judgment.
Yes.
Because earlier on in life, when you are in that space, you actually are passing judgment.
Oh yeah, ego loves to do that.
That's because you don't know better. So
Mhm.
now that you're learning, you tend to let go the judgment, because you realize that they are also in their journey, not knowing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
And
by
they
you
and they
really-
and they are also judging you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So if you judge, then they're just judging back, right? So you're feeding that narrative.
Exactly. So, in my opinion, the best way is to, to demonstrate being your best.
Be the change you want to be in the world.
Exactly. More words.
That's the
those
most
words
powerful
just
thing you
keep
can do.
creeping up. And so those are words.
Hey, I should quote that. I should TM that.
That's
Oh,
yeah, you should write that down. Yeah. Go ahead. Put your name on that one. Mr. Santa Claus. So, but what that does is then it creates this contrast. And that's what the yin and yang is. That's why you have different colors. That's why you have, black and white. It's contrast. And who says that the black side is the bad side, or the white side is the white side, or the good side? It's here.
Because when you think about it, when you think about even the colors, right? So when you think of the word of the colors, you think of black. Black is is a consistence of all colors. You put all colors together, it comes up as black. So it's inclusive of all colors. White is the removal of all colors, right? So
I didn't think of that. That's interesting. Yeah.
So
it's the bleached out color.
So when you create a contrast and such, and this is not a place of ego that I am better than you contrast. It's just simply, that energy contrast. We've all been in a room when someone's walked in, you're just like, wow, that person's just really together. You just feel it off of them. Just like, wow, I don't know anything about that person, but there's a contrast, there's an energy.
Right.
And it's like, huh. And you gravitate towards that person because they resonate with you, and you're like, I'm curious. And this person just, they might walk with more confidence, they might speak with more confidence, they might just carry themselves better. They might not say a word, but you just keep looking. You're just like, there's something about this person. It's a contrast. And to where it makes you gravitate towards that person to find out more. How is that person like that? I'm really curious. And then they may speak and you're like, wow, that person really knows, carries themselves. They're very intelligent. And then you're like, then there's, for the lack of a better term, an envy that starts to kind of build. Just like, I want to try and be more like that person. I'd like to model that person. And that's how you enact change.
Yeah, you enact change by being inspirational. So you inspire others.
Yeah.
That's it.
And be the change.
Yeah, because you can't tell them, you can't word them into it. You just can't.
Then you're going up against belief systems.
Yeah, and that's a long drawn out process that's always going to include some kind of struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. And Linda, you wanted to say something before I say something else altogether different?
You go right ahead.
All right, I was going to say, just now we were talking about black and white, and I was told that, what Gary said just now was quite interesting, that all colors have been drawn into the black to become black. I didn't think of it that way, and white is really, on its own. Because it has been said that, especially in yoga and so forth, they say black absorbs a lot of things. So when you go to certain places, it's better not to wear black because it absorbs everything, the negativity as well. So you wear white because it reflects out. It reflects out and you don't need to absorb this negativity. I also didn't know that because I love black, And, what do you think about that, about the black and the white?
Well, I think that black is very slimming.
Me too. Yeah. It looks good with gray hair too.
Except when you have dogs, then everything shows. But if you take this and you look at like, say for white, if you take a prism and you shine pure light through a prism, it's going to separate into colors.
Yeah.
So isn't that a cool duality? Black is all the colors, but at the same time, within the white is all of the colors as well.
Just arranged differently for the receptors in our eyes. That's all.
Exactly. And and color per se is simply the way a particular substance or material will reflect
light. Yeah.
Light. So we could actually say that everything in the world is, for lack of a better, gray. Mm-hmm. It's the old-fashioned TV set. Everything is it's black and white. It's all variations of black and white and such. Well, but then they figure out how to start getting different pixels in there and et cetera, et cetera. But if I look at this coffee cup, this coffee cup is gray, but it's actually reflecting black, and that's reflecting white, and that's reflecting blue, and that's reflecting yellow, and that's reflecting, it's just all reflections.
Just the way the molecules are arranged, right? Yeah.
Right. And that's what we are. We are a reflection of those around us. We are beams of light.
And as far as the black, let me just jump in here real quick, Jean, on your point.
But let's look at colors. There is also some sense in what the other people say. I mean, the guru says is that, black, if you take black is always absorbing.
Yeah.
White is always reflecting.
Yeah.
So we, on that score, on that intellectual argument, I agree. Because black, you are absorbing.
Yeah.
Black absorbs. And white is reflecting out.
Right.
So so that's why maybe all those gurus and all that, they don't wear black.
Well, but here's I would even challenge that. So who is it that said that the absorption of black can only absorb negative?
Right. Well, that's where I was going to go with that.
Why is it not absorbing the positive too? Why is it not absorbing?
More black.
the
Yeah.
connotations that we have of black and white
Mhm.
are very, very primitive. They come
Yeah.
back, they go back to the times
When it was
when
dark, I was scared.
when it was
light,
dark, it
oh,
was dangerous because you
exactly.
couldn't see the predators.
Yeah.
When it was daytime and light, you were safer because you could see what's coming.
Yet the
That's
contrast to that is when it was dark, I got to rest, rejuvenate, and
Exactly.
repair. As opposed to when I'm awake, I'm out there and I'm actually using my body and creating more deaths within the body itself. So it's just like Ross said, it's that conditioning and the lack of understanding of the this and that model, and in that this or that model is what they bought into.
Right. So, let me take that even one step further. So, Gene, what you were just saying is that the gurus were black and all that kind of stuff. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. The reason that they do is because wearing black, we perceive a person wearing black as more authoritative.
Ew.
That's why a lot of the big people, the gurus that they wear black is because
No, the gurus wear white, Ross.
Well-
The witches wear black. In the movie. In the
What?
movie.
Glenda the witch didn't wear black. Only the evil witch wore black. Not all witches. Only the evil witches, the bad witches.
Well, I'm not wearing black on this thing anymore.
So let me take this a step further.
Okay.
Who in your past do you recall who always wore black?
Witches. In the storybooks.
Nuns and
Or
White. Yes.
or priests.
priests, yeah, priests and nuns.
Oh yeah, olden days the priests wear black. Huh? Now that I think back, yeah, it's true.
It gives them a more authoritative stance.
Then again, we dial back to the message that we talked about on Thursday. Who gave the definition or the meaning to the color? It's the
Right.
individual, and you get to choose that. We're no longer in this place where we have to adopt what everybody else is doing. What it means to you is all that matters,
Right.
right? So if you like black, wear black. If you like yellow, wear yellow. As if it means that to you, it means that to you. And that's what the infinity process is all about. It's not being the puppet who just goes along with it, what everybody else tells you these things are. You can say, no, it can mean that to other people, and I can understand that it means that to those people. But to me, the meaning I'm giving it so that it serves me is empowerment, it's freedom, it's whatever it is, it's love, it's harmony, it's those kinds of things, so that you are having more of a choice in what you feel, instead of just kind of going along the rhetoric of what the society has kind of just fall into place with.
Yeah, and I like your definition. Black can also absorb all the good ones.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah. I shall wear more.
Yeah, if it absorbs because even if in your phrasing, if it absorbs everything doesn't exclude negative, all the positive. It includes
everything.
That.
Everything. Yeah.
It's
good,
everything.
good. I have too many black clothes.
All women have a lot of black clothes.
Yeah, because it's mean you're right.
Yeah. But these are really, really good examples though of conditioning. And it doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying, when we use the term conditioning, we don't mean it for nefarious things. It's not always a bad thing, or even when we use the term control, it's not always a bad thing. It's just direction. A lot of people want control. A lot of people need that security of control.
Yeah.
They want people around them that they feel secure around, and that's the person who is dominating and has has that control. So there's
until it becomes oppressive.
Yes, well, it serves them to some
point. And I think that's what we're seeing now. It's becoming oppressive.
Exactly.
And that's what's changing people's minds.
Well, actually, I think what you're seeing now, in my opinion, and this is how I perceive the world at this particular point, is I see the world as there is conflict. And I'm going to go back to using the tool of the internet. Okay. The internet has made a lot of people very intelligent because it's an incredible source of information.
Right.
And no longer do you have to go to the town square to get your information. Okay. Now you can get your information from tens of thousands of town squares.
Yeah.
And people are realizing that there's more to the world than what they have been told. And they're like, no, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And I think that awakening that you're asking about, Jean, is I think that's happening now. And that's why there is such turmoil.
Yeah.
Because those who really had the grasp, really had the control, are losing it. It's slipping through their fingers now, and they're trying even harder.
Yeah, and it's happening all over the world.
Because we're at the edge. We're at the edge of breaking through something, for sure.
You know, something is breaking through. Exactly. That's a perfect way to say it. It's, you know, we're coming out of that egg. We're breaking through the shell of the egg to emerge into the world. And that's how I see it. People are just like, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Like here in the States, back in November, part of December, 30 million people quit their jobs.
I know.
30 million.
I think it actually got up to 40, didn't it?
Yeah, they didn't get fired. They didn't get fired. They didn't get laid off. They quit their jobs. Who quits their job right before Christmas, and right before winter and all this kind of stuff? And I'm just like, huh. My perception of that is they're just like, I just realized that there's something better out there than this.
Yep. I think they got off the treadmill when they started having them work at home and they quit going into that rat race. They said, oh my God, I can't do that again.
Yeah.
I applaud them because I think their lives are going to get much better.
So wouldn't we call that
an
awakening? By our definition, an awakening?
Yep, I would.
Not the grandiose awakening, but enough to enact a change.
Yeah.
And it's the 100 monkey. We talked about this on the live stream before. The 100th monkey is to where all of a sudden it just gets to a point where it's just exponential.
Yeah.
It's not that I quit my job because he quit my job. It's just all of a sudden people just like, this is done. I'm done with this. They all came.
I find this exciting. I find this really exciting right now. I just see it's a slow change, but it's changing. And
if you look for it,
looking for it, you see it.
Yeah.
So what do you and here in the States again, what do we see in politics? We see them enacting more control measures.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to change some laws. We have to get control. We're losing control.
They're panicking, right? They're
panicking. Exactly. Yeah. And people are like, no, I think we're done with you. I think we're done with you. So that's how I perceive what's happening now. And I revel in it. I do. And yes, it can cause some distractions. It can cause some challenges for me personally, but I'm like, I'm good with this. I can maneuver this. I can.
Because it also creates other opportunities too, right?
Exactly.
So, the if we were to have this conversation 18 months ago, oh my God, people they can't go into work. They got to stay at home. How are they going to do that? But that was what was needed to prepare that 30 to 40 million people to be in a place where they can say, hey, I'm going to step off this thing. If that didn't happen, it wouldn't have been that.
And that's a really good example, Gary, of looking at what the side that thought they were controlling everything actually created the opening for people to free themselves. That's pretty cool. I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They created this, and now they realize they opened the box.
Yeah.
And they can't get it closed again.
Yeah.
That's called an oh shit moment.
Yes. You did the wrong thing.
Like, this isn't what was supposed to happen. It's just like, well, you know what? You just opened people's eyes is what you did.
Yeah. Yep.
And
I'm
there's
so glad to see this because I think it has such a long lasting effect. I mean, this is going to affect their children, how they raise them, because
Mhm.
before they're at work 60, 70 hours a week, they don't see them, they don't spend time.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden they have more time and they saw that and they can develop other areas of their life.
And
it's just
they
keep going.
absolutely, and they put themselves in a position where they have to now tap into their creativity and how to create
Right.
create income and a living, as opposed to dependency on an illusion of security.
Yeah, they were given a moment of pause, where that pause was the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
They were given, they was just handed to them. It's like, we're going to put you in this holding pattern. They paused their life for a second. They stepped into the eye of the storm and they went, this is not for me. Because now they're swatching that chaos. So
Right.
like, I'm not going back into that. I'm not stepping back into it. They were in their choice convergence point where they just simply made, a phenomenal choice. And just like, I might not know what's out there that's better, but I know that there's something better. And it's a phenomenal moment. And that is not just happening here in the States. That's happening across the globe.
Yeah.
And
I'm hoping
all the
another
governments-
outcome of this. I'm hoping another outcome of this is that we change our healthcare system. We change the way we treat people.
Yeah.
We change how we feel about health.
Well,
in
I think
general, and medical.
my belief in that, Linda, I think that what's going to happen is the healthcare system is going to be the healthcare system. I think what's going to happen is people are going to realize that they need to be their own healthcare system.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably a better
Yeah.
way to say it.
Right. I think people are going to realize that, hey, I need to take care of my health, because if it's always going to be contingent on me doing this, doing that, doing that, doing that, then I'm just going to take care of my health, and it's up to me.
Well, true. Well, in that in turn, if more people do that, the healthcare system is going to have to change up a little, or they're not going to make
Exactly.
money, because that's basically what they do now.
Exactly.
And that's what we talked about last week, is that, if you want to enact change in these big businesses or big organizations, just hit them in the pocketbook.
Follow where the money
This
goes.
is not working. And then what you'll see them start to tighten up, and then they're going to release, because it's not going to work. Because the more that they tighten up, the more they put controls on, people are going to start to push. They're going to start resisting and pushing back against it. It's like, no. And you hopefully will see many changes in government as well. People are going to start putting the right people into these positions of
better people,
power.
right or wrong.
Better people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting times. I mean, I remember someone saying, I don't know, a couple of years ago, you should be happy that you're here through all this. And I'm going, I didn't view it at that point that way, but I can see that now. It's exciting to kind of see the world. We're on a world stage now. I mean, this is going on everywhere. It's not just your own little part of the world.
Yeah, and it's
so we're
because of
seeing-
the internet. It's because of the
Yeah,
sharing
because
of
of the internet.
this tool that, again, in some ways you can look at as controlling people, but in other ways it's freeing up the
Right.
others that are ready for it to be freed up.
Yeah.
People can only be controlled if they want to be controlled. That's the bottom line.
Yep.
Right? If they choose to be controlled, if they choose to be in ignorance, if they choose to not look at what else is out there, because what else is out there always exists. It's not that they're excluded from access to it.
Right.
Right.
And sometimes it's a hard pill to kind of deliver, they say, but it's the reality.
Right.
Right. And to know that, hey, if they're still choosing that version of reality and that experience of reality, then maybe at some level that's what they need. Or maybe at some level there's a collective agreement that they need to be that reflection for me, and that's why they're showing up in my life in that way.
True. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. And all of that needs to be okay, because once you start to judgment on it, then you're feeding that pendulum swing to that side. Right.
That's true. Yeah. Because sometimes it's difficult not to have judgment. Sometimes
Well,
You have to
it's
just,
a practice. I think,
Yeah, I
Linda, I
think
would just
so.
suggest that we change the languaging on that. It's a practice. It doesn't have to be difficult. It's just a practice, right? If you define it as difficult, then you're going to find difficulty in doing it.
okay.
It's just a practice. That's all. The more you do, the better. It's like, my my 9-year-old, she's not interested in riding a bike because it's too difficult. Well, it's only difficult because you haven't practiced it.
Right.
Oh, true. I get it. Yeah.
And I would change judgment from that to just perception,
Yeah. Okay.
and because, all the information
Well,
comes
it's that
in.
thing where we always feel like we're committing a sin.
You've been taught that, yes.
Yeah, you have to regroup your body or your mind into thinking differently. It
Yeah.
takes some time sometimes.
Yeah,
It does.
sometimes a sin, what you consider a sin, is a gift to someone else. And, because it gives them an opportunity to grow and expand in a way they wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
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 So, and if you look at, I mean, it's, when you look at what is the seven something sins,
Deadly sins.
the 7 deadly sins, all that is when you actually read it, it's just like, it's all about, too much of any one thing is going to be a
Right.
problem.
Exactly.
It's taking the black
what-
out of the black side, so you
Oh
have
yeah,
more white. That's what it
exactly.
is.
It's like, well,
That's all it's doing.
why
right?
can't, well, why would you want to eat so much? Gluttony. It's just like, well, maybe I just won't eat as much, but you still need to eat. It's just an overconsumption of any of those.
Like they're like
Pieces of that
they're
exist
like
in all of our
learned
lives.
addictions. I'm studying Joe Dispenza stuff, and he says it's learned patterns you learned,
Yep.
and you do
Or we're
this
taught.
unconsciously. You just do these things, and you
Mhm.
have to retrain yourself to get rid of these patterns in your life that kind of drive you.
Well,
And-
but exactly, but it comes more to once you identify them,
Well, that's when that's a lot of
then
times.
then it's
what
just a
makes
matter of
it-
making a choice.
Right. That's kind of what he says too. You have to identify it that you're
Yeah,
doing
you
it.
identify and go, do I choose to continue this, or do I choose to change it?
Right.
Boom, that's it. Okay, well, I choose to continue with this. All right, then.
Well, once you choose to change it, then your mind triggers when you're doing it. So you can say, oops, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And after a while, you've retrained, and then it's no longer happening all the time.
Right.
You broke the pattern, I guess is how to put it.
You control it. You control it. Just like that.
And you shift from I don't want to do that to, oh, I want to do this instead. So you focus on what you
Yeah.
want instead of what you don't want.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Always good stuff on here.
But then there is, even though we say we don't put judgment, but there is also a right and a wrong.
No one's-
Well, is it really?
So that again is that's conditional, because right for who, compared to what, based on what. There's all kinds of things that come into right or wrong aspects of things. There's what resonates with you and what doesn't resonate with you. That's probably a better way to put it, Gene, instead of right or wrong. That resonates with the core of who I am. That doesn't. That's it. Whether it's right or wrong is up to only the person who's experiencing that particular thing, because what you might think is wrong, like I said, might be for someone else the best thing in the world.
Right.
But could it be that, it's again how you define wrong? Could it be like, as long as, a wrong could be something that if it hurts the other party,
Say it again, if what?
if it hurts the other party, if we do
Hurts
this
the other party.
party. But then again, there's another definition. Sometimes you can't help but hurt the other party because you are right. So how do you define that? Yeah.
So if it's in your intention, to hurt another person, then if you look at that, then you've got to internally, you've got to connect with, is that intention in alignment with the true core of who I am? That's all you can assess. Whether it's right or wrong is not, it's again, just a definition that people have put on certain conditions. That's it. Is it in alignment? Because if you're following the truth of who you are and the core of who you are, and you do something, you're not doing it with the intent of hurting others. You're following the core of who you are. If it hurts the other person because you're following from your core without the intent, then it's not a right or wrong. It's just that other person's experience of it is not in alignment with the core of what they want to experience. That's it. So it's a the right or wrong thing. I have all kinds of things. I mean, that's its own rabbit hole, its own session that we can really go into a lot of
next week.
And because there's you can get into these conversations that are touchy. You know, if someone creates a murder, if someone does a rape, those kinds of things, we can look at those, and if we kind of take away the emotion out of it, and we look at the act and what and look at those components, we can see both sides of the coin all the time. And there's so many different ways to see both sides of the coin, no matter how much emotion you have involved in the actual, oh my God, that's bad, I would never. Yeah, I get it. I get that there's that's so against the vibration of who you are that you would never do it. But the person who does do it, or the person who does experience it on all kinds of different levels, there could be some things in there that are opposite to the way that you experience it or think it or feel it.
You can
Right?
you can take that and do a session with yourself of taking Gary's example and such as, well, would I do that? No. Well, then if I said, but let's say harming somebody, okay, would I do that? No. Well, if they were going to inflict harm to you, would you? No. Okay, if they were going to inflict harm on one of your children, would you? Well, it depends. Okay, now the perception just changed a little bit. Okay, so what is that person's perception? How are they perceiving that situation? It's tough.
It's all that play with duality, right? And when you don't play the game of duality, those things just don't have the impact. It's just a choice. It's a choice that someone made. It's a choice that someone experienced, or a choice someone doesn't experience, whatever the experience is. And so that's a deep philosophical and can be a testy subject to dive into. In fact, in the higher levels of so that when we get into, Gene, you've done the 7-day art of designing reality. When we get to higher level of training for those things, for the infinity process, we take you through an element where you can take any duality, right, and take it through a process where we harmonize them to the point where the duality does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Right, and you become free of the pull of the duality, which is a level of freedom that most people never experience in their life because they're so caught up in the duality game.
Wow.
That's nicely put. I agree with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mary, welcome. You came in at the tail end.
As usual.
You know what? I think Mary watches the stream and she's like, okay, 5 minutes. I'm gonna see how much longer I can keep these guys on. Let me jump on and start a conversation.
One more. Okay, they're gonna end now.
You know what? You know what happened? Translate the time incorrectly.
Oh
And-
no.
This morning we're getting ready for a snow, and I have to get the livestock ready for the. My party is getting ready. There's water.
Anyway, nice having you in here, Mary.
I think she dropped her phone in the snow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, so that's I think that's where we're gonna have to end it off today. Mary, you'll have to go back because it was a good stream. You'll have to go back and watch the replays if you did miss it. And those of you that did join us, New and Ludmila, I think it is, and hello, and cousin It. That's cousin It.
I can, what is it? I can do a duck or a dog.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you joined us.
Thank
Jean,
you
I'm
all
gonna
for
leave you with
joining.
this. Jean, get your dictionary, use the internet, and such like. Look up the definition of malice,
Mhm.
and that's going to give you a really good, nice, short, concise definition of what Gary was saying, because it is all about intent.
Melis, okay.
Okay.
All right. Melis, from what I understand, means, a bad intention, but okay, I will look up and then, try to
Thanks,
understand.
Jaquai. I saw your message there. It's good to have you on as well. Every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. PST, down the rabbit hole. On Thursdays, we've got Hacking the Infinity Matrix live stream on our socials. Make sure you jump on them if you haven't been jumping on them. We've got all kinds of great stuff this month where our theme or our series is on the words have power and the worlds they create. And we got some really good stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks on that topic as well. So that's our stream for today, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to see you all, and we'll see you again next week.
Well, thank you
very
guys.
much.
I really love
Fantastic.
this live
Awesome.
Good night,
stream.
Linda. Good
Well,
night,
we truly love you too.
Gary and Gary and Ross. Good night so much. Wonderful to see.
Bye, Jean.
Thanks,
Our
Ludmila.
pleasure.
Bye-bye.
And anybody have questions, just go ahead and put them on the group page and we'll answer them for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good
Bye-bye.
weekend.
Okay.